Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyers. Josh Whitaker, Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. Offices located Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, and Morehead City. Also, Cassandra Nicholas joining us from that Morehead City office, an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. We are going to get into questions from I can't wait, chatbot GPT formulated these questions for us. So, Josh, take it away.
All right, we got a big list of questions. This is not questions that we have reviewed ahead of time, so we're really taking these as they come, courtesy of Chat GPT. We're just going to go into the first one here, and I'm just going to read this question, and then Cassandra, Joseph, you can jump in as you please.
Rapid fire. We're going to rapid fire these guys off?
What's the sitcom where they just ask you a bunch of questions and it's got like a time limit?
Family Matters.
I don't think that's a real game show.
That is a real show, but no, that's not.
It's a pyramid, right? It's pyramid where you just get the questions and you have to. I mean, they're not like deep questions. It's like name a color.
Whatever the show is, we'll do that.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. My neighbor built a fence that encroaches on my property. What can I do to get them to move it?
A robot coming in with the heat right at the gate.
We get the neighbor calls a lot, right? We get the my neighbor did this, my neighbor did that calls. And I will tell you before we get to the meat of this question, I always ask folks when they come in, because they're, if they're talking to us, they're going to be spending some attorney's fees. So I always try to figure out what the root problem is, in talking to our potential client. But, it's terrible, to live next to someone that you have a disagreement with, right? That you don't get along. They're right next door. Some of these lots here in Raleigh, you're on 0.006 of an acre. So I always ask, have you talked? Sometimes you have a neighbor that you just can't talk to, but I always want to make sure there's been some effort to bring up.
Usually that's going to be this neighbor that's complaining about something like this too. So.
Yeah. But, have you talked to your neighbor? The way this would come up normally is, right, somebody's gotten a survey, right? They're about to sell the house. Maybe somebody's about to move in. But somebody's gotten a survey and they see that, hey, my neighbor over here on the east is encroaching. There's a fence encroachment. It's probably been there, a while. And so there's definitely some legal issues that presents. It's not devoid of merit for an attorney to discuss, but a lot of these things can usually be figured out if you've got two reasonable people on each side, and that doesn't always happen. But you can usually come to an agreement, right? So there's two ways I approach this. One is if you've got two reasonable people, we talk about an encroachment agreement. And Joe, you see those a lot.
Yep. We see them a lot, and I guess it's an easier, better option. I don't know if it's a better option, but it's an easier option than usually going in and actually fixing the encroachment, moving a fence or moving a thing that's encroaching. But yeah, we do see them a lot, and it's something that we draft up a lot of times in a pinch just to kind of get closing to the starting line and avoid further, something that can kind of be dealt with in this way from becoming a bigger issue and kind of torpedoing an entire transaction.
Yeah, I think the big legal issue is if someone's got a fence that's encroaching onto your property, i.e. they fenced in some of your property in certain places, if that's been there for 21 years, right? There's a concern that maybe your neighbor will have maybe adversely possessed your property, adverse possession being a way in certain circumstances where you can take control over someone else's property, get legal title to it through a court filing, but that doesn't happen a lot. But yeah, an encroachment agreement is usually going to say, hey, the person encroaching is going to say, hey, I'm not trying to adversely, take your property. And usually there's an agreement in there, like once the fence becomes dilapidated, needs to be replaced, it'll be put in the right position, right? Usually it's only you're just temporarily allowing the encroachment.
Yeah, it's basically an acknowledgement of it, just saying, I understand this is an encroachment, like you said, to defeat that adverse possession claim, and essentially saying on request, we can fix this at a later date. It's kind of kicking the can down the road in a sense, right? Just to again, you're really worried about that adverse possession claim. That's the thing to primarily be concerned about, assuming that it's not a major encroachment. Now, if we're talking about a substantial encroachment, something that's real, a lot more cumbersome than a simple, 1-inch fence overlap, then you're talking about a more litigious situation and having to take a different approach. But like you said, man, it's always better if you got reasonable people to go about it a reasonable, mutually agreeable way, if possible.
And even if they're not that reasonable, if they don't want to spend the money on attorneys, these are the better options for sure.
Yeah, you find out how mad you are at somebody when you get quoted attorney's fees, right? That's when you really figure out, am I this mad at this person, or can we come to some agreement? Because attorneys...
Have you ever been pay $3,000 mad at someone before, Josh?
Very rarely. Sometimes, but very...
I'm $10,000 mad at you.
But yeah, you definitely... you can always tell people taking a step back if they consult with us. And like, well, you could file a lawsuit, you could do this, you could do that. And then when you start pricing that stuff, But anyway, all right, we got 30 of these. So I think we got
a rapid fire. I think we went too hard at that one.
Yeah,
man.
we really...
If we don't answer all 30 of this robot's questions,
don't worry,
there's
the
no
next
telling what it's
one-
going to do.
Yeah,
We'll tread lightly on the next one.
Yeah, the next one I ain't got much for it. But here's the next question. Chat GPT decided to answer or ask us to answer. I was injured on a cruise ship. Can I sue the cruise line for damages? And I can see
that robot backwards knee dog on the bow of the ship now.
I'm gonna give Cassandra this one.
Tanning in the sun.
Well, this is not a North Carolina specific question, and I am only buying North Carolina and DC. However, this gets into whether it was the cruise line's fault you were injured or if it was your fault you were injured. Were you inebriated of your own volition and fell? That's not the cruise line's fault.
Yeah, I think if I like that. If we're analyzing
the
this,
cruise line has such delicious drinks, Cassandra,
and they're free, I think,
and they're free. Yeah, on this cruise, on the robot cruise, they're free.
That's right. But where you sue them, you have to sue them like where the cruise headquarters are, and I don't think many are headquartered in North Carolina.
I think we're going with our official answer. Sorry, robot, we can't help you with this one.
Please spare us your robot rage.
Contact a robot cruise ship attorney for this one.
Yeah, this is
which is the thing. There's cruiseshipattorneys.com.
Oh wow,
free advertisement.
Hey, there you go. Free. Send us our money, cruiseshipattorneys.com.
I was about to say this is going to cross over into maritime law, right? What if
it does a little
you're
bit.
in international waters, anything goes, right?
We should do a maritime law show for all 6 people on the earth who would love that.
I tell you what, if watching The Simpsons for my whole life has taught me anything, there's an episode of season where something illegal takes place, but they're in international waters, so it doesn't matter. Right, here's one episode where they have like a monkey fight where these monkeys are stabbing each other, but they're in international water, so anything goes,
Oh yeah,
that comes up a lot on The Simpsons. That's just for you. All right, well we're cruising right over that question.
Number three.
My ex-spouse is refusing to follow the custody agreement we agreed upon during our divorce. What can I do to enforce the agreement? So Chat GPT's throwing that one at us.
In North Carolina, you can file a motion for contempt. They're in contempt of the order that the court's already issued. So
yeah, they throw people in jail for that, legitimately.
Yeah, we see that a lot. I don't spend a lot of time in our family law practice. We have some great attorneys who've been on the show, but that's not where I live most of the time. But I do hear that, that's something that happens, and the, judges, you get the judge, that's a judge's order. You get judges involved. They can do all kind of bad things to you for violating an order of the court. So in North Carolina, at least, that's very serious. And yeah, they can get you in jail. They can get you fined. You can forfeit some of the time that you've got with your kids. There's all kinds of bad things that could happen. But I think that's our best answer to that one. I'm going to move on to number 4.
That was a slam dunk answer right there.
I know. We know that one. All right. I was fired from my job because of my race, but my employer is claiming that it was for a legitimate reason. How can I prove that this was discrimination? And so,
by God, they're being racist against robots now, man. What have we come to?
The chat GPT on this one is asking an employment law question. Employment law is a very specific area of law, and a lot of the attorneys who practice employment law, that's all they do. They don't do anything else. There's a lot of federal laws that are changing and policies, but I think we can pretty safely say that there's no federal law prevents you from being.
You can't do that.
Yeah,
this is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, you can't do it. And of course, if your employer
did have a legitimate reason and they do have proof that you were actually a bad employee, you have to overcome that with your proof of their discrimination based on race. So,
and you've got we're talking about an at-will employment state too, where you can be fired for any reason in the absence of a contract other than a reason that violates public policy. But when you talk about race, that is specifically a thing that would violate public policy,
right.
being terminated for race. So that falls squarely into the wheelhouse of you cannot fire someone for this reason.
That's right. If you don't have a contract, or you're not, it's not a union. If I just hire you to work at the law firm and you come in, you talk about how much you hate NC State, you make a bunch of Wolfpack jokes, I can just fire you.
Yeah, that's not a public policy reason.
That's
Hating
right.
the Wolfpack, very valid reason to be fired.
But most competent, most workplaces have HR. You're going to get written up. They should be able to demonstrate, if they have a legitimate reason for firing you, they should be able to prove it. And that doesn't mean it's still not race based, but you're going to have to prove that, like Cassandra said. And so you have to build that case. And again, employment law, very, very specific, ever changing practice area. But you can't do that. If this person's right and they got fired because of their race, that's a huge no-no, violates tons of federal laws. That should never happen. All right, we're moving on to the next one. These aren't numbered, so I've already forgotten what number we're on.
Number
6. We're going to call it 6.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll call it. I think we skipped one, but
Yeah, it's 5. It's
right.
5.
I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah. All right. Chat GPT's not so smart. Can't even number its questions.
Can't even number its questions.
All right.
Wait till Chat GPT 5 comes out.
Number 5. I was recently arrested for drug possession and the drugs weren't mine. Can I still be convicted?
Were you in possession? Was it in your pocket?
Yeah, I don't think Chat GPT really thought this one through here.
Nah, man, it's not the charge isn't possession of your drugs. I could be selling you drugs, Josh, theoretically.
Well, we've had
these are Josh's drugs. I just haven't handed them off to you. That's not a good defense.
We've had, of course, this is something that comes up a lot in our criminal division, right? We get this case where somebody's in a car. Maybe the car ends up getting searched and there's drugs under the back seat. There's drugs in the trunk, drugs in the, what do you call where you're like, back in the day?
What do you call that hidden place in your car where you store drugs?
The glove box?
That's right. The drug box. That's what they do. No, but I was going to say where people back in my day used to keep maps and ice scrapers. I don't know what goes in there now.
Maps with crack in them.
But that could definitely happen, right? You gave a ride to somebody, they left some drugs in your car, maybe they're not yours. But yeah, you're gonna have to fight that. If it's close enough to you where you can control the area, there's all kinds of case law on, either for prosecutors trying to prove they were yours or, defense attorneys trying to prove that they were not yours. You did not know it was there. Like if it's in your pocket or something, you got to uphill
How'd
climb.
that get there?
Yeah. But yeah, it can be, depending on the amount of drugs, this could be something, this could be a misdemeanor, or this could be a serious felony. So this argument takes place a lot. But so I guess the answer to this question is, can I still be convicted? Yeah. I guess in certain situations you could still be convicted if you can't offer convincing proof that they were not yours, So, all right. Let's see. Well, it looks like we're up against a break. So we just finished question number 5. We're not doing very good on our trip through these 30 questions. So we'll speed it up next segment.
All right. Well, the Outlaw Lawyer, we've got more questions coming up on the other side. Just a reminder, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, the managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer. They're practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices conveniently located in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, Gastonia, and Morehead City. Cassandra Nicholas is joining us from that Morehead City office. If you've got a legal situation you're facing, you've got some questions you need answers to, you can always call the firm. 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact info, briefly what the call is about, and an attorney will be in touch. And also, you can email your questions to the show, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. We'll answer those on a future program. We're back with more questions right after this.